Shindig.
Participants. Select. Oh, now this is interesting. See, I uploaded the file on a different. Hang on one second. Select the file. Hi guys, I'm in. I had the wrong room. I was sitting in a different room, so let me select my file. This should broadcast here. Oh crap, got the wrong one. All right, hang on one second. File. There we go. Okay, we'll get going. Okay, so I am hopefully that everyone is able to hear me. I'm upgrading my, all right, so welcome tonight. I want to say to you that tonight we will be going over a couple things that I want you to think about, and then I got a short video that will give you a pretty good overview of the second machine age, and I'll have a series of questions that I want to set up for you in your reflected conversation groups to be able to talk about that and to look at these questions that I'm going to raise so that we can, at our next time we meet, that you will be able to really engage in this direction for automation and technology. Well, before I get started, do any of you have any questions right now that you need to raise for me at this particular point? I'm going over each one, just check and see who's in here. George is there, Melissa's there, Summer, good. Jeffrey, that's you, Jeffrey from Shindig. All right, good. So I'm guessing that everyone is hearing me fine. One of the things, hang on one second. Jeffrey, if you can hear me, I have the shout outs. What are they used for? I'm going to bring you up here, Jeff. Can you explain the shout outs? Okay.
Okay, hi everybody. Hi class. So I guess to answer the question, what makes Shindig unique is you can double click on each other and have private video audio chats in the participant level. So all you have to do is double click on each other and do that. If you want to have a conversation with your professor, you'd raise your hand and he can bring you up to the main stage, and that way the two pods, he could stay in one and you can be in the other, and he can hear you. At your level, he can't hear what you're saying, but you are able to mingle with your classmates. Conversely, he's able to come down as a as a student level and join your mingles if you'd like. Otherwise, he can stay on the main stage and bring you up one at a time. As far as the shoutouts go, I mean, there is a way for him to have chats with you privately and so forth, but we can do that in another session. For now, it's probably best that he can either come down to the participant level or bring you up one at a time. And for you to interact and to call attention to the professor, you can raise your hand in the bottom right-hand corner. That's what I had done, and he had brought me up. And the other is to ask questions. You can type in questions, and he can read them off one by one if you don't want to come up to the main stage, if you just want the question answered. Do you want to bring me down off the stage now, please?
You know, as it relates to what this course is about. As I told you, this course is not so much about the technology as it is you're thinking about technology and leadership. And so when you look at this slide, one of the things I want you to begin to explore as you look at the different videos during the week. So for example, you have Shirley Turkle's video about even though we're greatly connected, we're actually not connected. And so I want you to think about what type of shifts in leadership thinking is very important in terms of this digital age. So as we move into the 21st century, we're moving out of that industrial model. We're now thinking about networking. We're thinking about different types of patterns of relationship that technology can give us. But what's important is that as this slide says, that if we begin to think about organizations as living systems, and that living systems in the biological sense generally are there, they create and they recreate by adapting to their environments, and they function as web-like networks. And so one of the things that many of the researchers today, many of the thinkers, as they look at both the leadership development, moving from top-down hierarchical to more of living systems, and that what takes place in any organization is the development of networks and relationships, that this type of thinking becomes extremely important. And adaptability, diversity, and creativity are the processes that we use when we're thinking about moving into the 21st century. So we're working in a platform right now called Shindig, which basically is designed for you to interact with each other, to interact with me. It is a different type of platform that allows for different types of networking to take place. And so these are the things that you need to start thinking about as you interact with the different concepts and ideas related to leadership as it functions in a digital world, in an automated world, and what the technologies mean. So it's not just, those of you in the K-12 environment, it's not just putting in technology. What it is about what does this technology do to the pedagogy? What does the technology do to the system of work? And that as leaders, your ability to think about adaptability, diversity, and creativity are extremely important leadership qualities as you nurture the integration of these technologies into a system and how it changes the design of a system. So this, to me, I think is extremely important for you to think about as a as you interact with the material over the next several weeks. Now, what that leads us into is thinking about this concept. This comes from Fedor Capra, and Fedor Capra is a physicist, but he's also the designer and the developer of the Eco Literacy Project out in San Francisco. He was at the Santa Fe Institute, major thinker in relationship to the integration of the biological world and the physical world into understanding institutions as living systems. So as he states here, that if we're going to create a sustainable society for our kids and any future generation, we fundamentally need to redesign many of our technologies. And we need to redesign social institutions so that they can bridge the gaps between human design and ecological sustainable systems of nature. So if you think back to your course 845 or 625, whenever you took it, whatever nomenclature that course was, you think about Otto Scharmer when he talked about the three major divides where we have our self with nature, in terms of that we are consuming 1.5, and some people believe it's really 2 planets worth of resources. The sustainability of the planet becomes extremely important. Okay, all right, so that's one. Thank you, Summer. So one of the things I think is important when you look at that process and you look at those divides, that what takes place then is our self with others then becomes extremely important. So the question, what does technology do to bridge the gap between haves and have-nots, becomes a critical question for all of you to think about. But then what you're reading or what you were watching in Turkle this week, if you have not done so already, is that what Scharmer calls the third divide, which is self to self. And what he talks about there is really the burnout, the stress, the post-traumatic stress disorder that many people are feeling throughout all societies, that these things are extremely important. And as she points out, the simple fact that, yeah, we're highly connected, but in reality, we're very disconnected in the way in which we interact with other human beings. And then there's a fourth divide that I'm adding into this, and this is what we'll be looking at in this course particularly, is self of technology. That there is a major shift that is taking place within our institutions as we interact with this thing called technology. So again, I want you to think about the underlying philosophy that technology brings about, and obviously the second machine age really builds into that quite a bit, because there is a radical shift that's taking place because of our technologies. And therefore, our need as educators and as people who work in organizations that run either learning components within any organization, whether it be in the business world or in academia, our need to rethink the structure of those organizations because of this technology, and how we need to prepare the next generation to deal with the impact of the changes that technology is creating is very important. And today I did upload for you, if you look in week 2, I put 2 new files in that I thought might be of interest to you. One comes from the World Economic Council, that they just released their major trends for 2000, the 10 major technological trends for 2016. I'd like you to take a look at those in light of what you're reading in the second machine age. And then the second article I put in was in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, where they have done and are really beginning to talk about how telemedicine is radically changing the relationships between doctors and patients and doctors and doctors. So that article, I think, will help to get you to begin to think about these concepts in a much broader sense, not just related to education, but to think about what's going on in this world, and then how do we need to rethink the design of our education, the type of knowledge that we're giving the kids, how we organize the day, how we organize the relationships between adults within any type of organization and adults to kids who are learning within that organization. So with that then, one of the major thinkers that has really began to influence a lot of people is Ray Kurzweil, who wrote the book, The Singularity is Near. And basically what he has really talked about is that by, in his estimate, 2045, the emergence of DNA as a language and machine language in terms of, if you remember, if you're Star Trek fans, the Borg, if you want to think about it from the negative point of view. But what he's saying is that our minds now have, from a just pure DNA biological language, have really reached their endpoint, and what our minds have really started creating is this idea of artificial intelligence, and that the merging of those two are going to become much more quicker than what we think. And if you think about today how they implant chips into the brain of epileptic individuals, how prosthetics particularly are radically changing what we're doing in terms of the body, how people who have lost the use of their limbs, either through spinal injuries, that now they're getting closer and closer to allowing people to walk again, etc. So that's coming out of the innovation in terms of technology. And then think about the concepts of 3D printing, and particularly when you look at the World Economic Forum that I gave you, where we're looking at the ability now to replicate organs through that type of process. And again, not too many years ago, even 10 years ago, that would be pure science fiction coming out of Star Trek or whatever. But in reality, now we're starting to see that. But that's the type of world our kids are moving into. And what Kurzweil states right there is technology change is so rapid that he's looking at the exponential growth that we need to understand, so that its impact on us will be irreversibly transforming of what we do in the future. So let me just stop for a couple of minutes. And do you have any questions or thoughts, or would like to raise something related to that from what I've said so far? Remember how you do it. Just raise your hand if you got any thoughts on this, or if you've been chatting with each other. Okay, so I'll take your silence as meaning, well, okay, we're thinking about this, etc. So last year, Time Magazine, just to bring this point home a little bit, is that they did an article, kind of an interesting article, on 6 new technologies that are shaping the classroom, particularly in K-12. When you look at these, they're kind of interesting. We're textbooks that learn about the student, that through analytics and data mining on the way in which students interact with that book can personalize and redesign itself in order to meet the individual learning style or the learning needs of that individual students. Desks that foster collaboration, so new ways to organize learning spaces. And one of the things, your final assignment within your team is really begin to look at a lot of these and to begin to think about your ability to redesign learning spaces for the future, utilizing a lot of technology and ideas that you're exploring. But here in Time Magazine, they're already talking about this. And so when you look at that one, the touchscreen collaboration, you can see those being used now. Toys that teach empathy, which is very interesting. And so if you're in just in 845 right now, one of the biggest things you're going to be learning about in relationship to Otto Scharmer's work as you go down the U is the reason he talks about generative conversation and to break away from downloading is the fact that the more empathetic we can become with each other, the more deeper understanding and the possibilities of new concepts and designs will emerge. So the idea of suspending our normal ways of thinking in order to truly listen to what people are saying becomes extremely important as we begin to understand what it means to communicate, particularly in a world that's being driven by this technology. And then you can see that the cell phones that teachers ask kids to turn on, because again, one of the issues of the haves and have-nots in relationship to the digital divide is that many times our kids have technologies that they can utilize within the schools that the schools themselves don't have enough fund to pay for. And so what happens is bring your own devices to school are becoming commonplace in a lot of areas, even though they drive technology experts or the keepers of the networks crazy. The fact of the matter is that as information becomes more and more ubiquitous, the question is, what type of tools do we want our kids to be able to use within the space called school, whether it be in traditional classroom settings of first grade, second grade, all the way up to college level, to those that are highly blended models or totally digital models, or those using MOOCs and things of that nature. That becomes extremely important. And then the last one is obviously that printers that redefine hands-on learning. So if you have 3D printers right now, that kids can basically start really creating their ideas in three-dimensional forms using 3D printers. So again, this stuff that we're talking about is not science fiction anymore. It's emerging, but the real question that you as a leader have to deal with is the structure that our schools are presently in able to accommodate these, or do we try to make these fit the structure instead of rethinking the structure to utilize these technologies at their fullest potential? So for example, when I was a superintendent of schools, as that technology was starting to come in, one of the things I was attempting to do is to break down the concept of grade levelness, because if you begin to think about not grouping kids in first, second grade or third grade or fourth grade all the way up the line, but begin to group kids by age level spans and interest levels, that changes the dimension, the way in which you would structure a day in the school. So when you look at those 6 devices that they're saying about new technologies reshaping what we're doing, well, that's the reason why we need to begin to think about that. And particularly with the emergence of gamification and virtual reality environments, this is going to become more and more important if we're really going to prepare our kids for the future. So any comments, questions about that? What's going on inside of your heads as you're being, hit with this type of information? All right, we have a question here. So, how about I bring you up?
Can everybody hear me? Can you guys hear me? Give me a wave if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me? Okay. All right. So I guess the thing that goes through my head as we were just listening to this about the timepiece is the new federal guidelines that are coming down through Every Student Succeeds Act, and how technology is going to change within the in regards to that. And I think I missed it, but when did this article come out from Time?
Okay, it's here. So it came last year. So it was yeah, it was last summer when it came. And what was also very interesting, that same, I think it was April or May of last year, and at the same time, the Smithsonian Magazine came out with articles about the future during that period of time and what changes were taking place. So again, like I said, if you look at that article from the Wall Street Journal that I put up today, along with those 10 emerging trends, you're going to see some interesting design around that. And the other question then is, does the federal government or even state or government really begin to understand what this means, or are we still stuck in the old models? Okay, does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Others, any other thoughts, questions about that? Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So going through all these materials, part of my background is I'm a college instructor, but also I was on our K through 12 school board for almost 10 years, being chair for 6. And I can remember negotiating a collective bargaining agreement where we just wanted our teachers to put up a web page of their areas of interest, and it was something that really we almost ended up at an impasse in contractual or contract negotiations. However, we got over that and we started to advance forward and we made some investments in technology. But the gap between, and Chris and I were talking about this in our last class group, the gap between K through 12, the technology that students can drive versus what teachers can use and actually develop pedagogy around it, develop curriculum around it, and execute the multiple generations of teachers in our school system right now, the gap between K through 12 and higher ed, and then higher ed and industry, those are all those are big gaps.
Yep.
And we're coming up to a point where it's how I guess the question I have is, how does this get done in almost an orderly way? Because it seems like some things are going to be forced. Time continues to pass, technology continues to evolve. In the meantime, if we look at the core educational system, it has not moved nearly as fast, if at all, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and that's the central question, I think, particularly if you're looking at it. I'm going to take you off the stage because I'm getting feedback from you. Particularly if you're looking at it from the point of view of, the statement I always use in coming out of systems thinking is the structure shapes the behavior of people over time. One of the major reasons, and again, being a superintendent for over 15 years and trying to initiate change, not just technologically driven change, but things that you're talking about there. And I think the multi-generational component of the workforce within a school has a lot to do with that. But as you're learning in 645, and I think the best way, I'm just going to put it this way, is that as you learn about going down the U, and I mentioned to you about becoming empathetic conversation, that our basic problem in schools today around change is the problem is that we're all products of that, or of that structure. We've all gone through K-12. We all gone into colleges and universities. Same way business structures are basically set up. A business is off on, I'm going to put it this way, is off on its own because it can do things in a much more rapid way because of the economic implications and survivability. But what happens is the educational structure is so institutionalized. So if you think about when you talk to legislators, and I've talked to legislators about this, that their image of what school is and what it needs to be is still locked in their experience that they went through in terms of school. And so that becomes a difficult process. The other thing that's kind of interesting about it is if you think about what charter schools are designed to do, they are basically designed to allow for the emergence of new ideas. So again, I want to put it in context of 845, that when you get down to the bottom of the U, and if you looked at that in Sharma's book, it's called Let Go to Let Come, that the problem we're faced with is we really don't know how to develop types of conversations that will allow us to stop the downloading of our previous ways of thinking in order to interact with these types of ideas and to be willing to explore new models. And so that I think is one of the issues that you're going to have to wrestle with. And the reason I'm saying that is that, I'm at a generation, I'm on my way out, so to speak. My job is kind of get you guys to think about this as the next transitional group of leaders, and that this is why I'm posing these types of questions. The only other way you can really deal with this is how do you create conversation within an organization that will allow for people to feel trust enough to be able to truly say what they believe and think. So that's sort of the long answer, to this, but I think it's the answer that all of you need to grapple with within this program, because one of the outcomes of this program, and I'm talking about the whole one, is the whole EDD, is hopefully is to create a generation of leaders who will be able to transition from the present reality of how we're structured to a willingness to understand how to begin to nurture a new structure for this to take place. So what I'm going to ask you, George, and I'm going to bring you back up, does this make sense to you, particularly as a former school board member?
Well, the challenge is to get to that level of, I'll call it innovative thinking. We're going to get that from our newer teachers. Yet, if we look at how teacher unions are structured, they tend to be, the more senior teachers obviously survive any type of attrition that goes on. So to get some type of traction had been a very, very painful process. So for example, we had finally gotten through this PSAR collective bargaining agreement, and the way I got through it was I had to go and get funding from the town in order to to show good faith that we can get the technology, we can get the tools, we can get the training. And back then, we're talking 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now, from a personal standpoint, I'm feeling time is now working against us. And the gaps are getting a little interesting. Because if I look at it, I also own my own business. So when I hire people, I'm tending to automate things more than before I start looking at people. And because I see the gap in the skill sets that I need. And as much as I try to prepare my seniors at the post-secondary level for what we call the real world, what the feedback we're getting from industry is that this gap is widening. And as that gap, if we can't close it farther on down the pipeline, it seems to be becoming more and more problematic. Obviously, this is based on observation, but we just don't, the time does not seem to be on our side on this. And if we start having, and this is where the leadership, which is what I'm really dealing with, is how does my leadership help send certain messages that here's what we're trying to do collectively. We've done some really good things at Suffolk, but when I think about K through 12, that to me just looks like I don't even know what words to use. I'll say interesting. That's all I have.
Yeah, and what's also, and I will bring, let's see, I'm going to bring a couple people up here too. But what's interesting about this, and Summer, I'm seeing your comments here. The other thing is that's why the Turkle video is extremely important to begin to think about this. But the other things, George, what you're bringing up is that we're at the point where the present structure, and I'm talking from my experience as a superintendent, and I told you I got 47 years in this field, is that our unwillingness, or not unwillingness, but inability to understand the dynamics, that this structure no longer is appropriate for the sustainability of our future, meaning our kids. That's what we got to deal with. So that's what, I think is important. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, I had asked a question about talking to legislators. I mean, maybe if there's something you could post later on or send an email about, like, tips to speak to them, to try and kind of get them to see the light with changing things. I mean, here in Pennsylvania, it's kind of crazy that we our funding formula is so out of whack that we can't get the technology that we need and carry out just the basic functions that are required under federal and state laws. And kind of piggyback on what George was saying, as someone who is in, well, who's also actively working some part of the active in, I see what he's talking about. There's this mindset where we're stuck in, well, that's the way it's always been done, so that's the way we do it. And it's very hard to get people to teach rapidly. And as someone who's a quote unquote younger teacher, although I don't really know I'm a younger teacher anymore, I'm almost 10 years in, it's like there are people who want to do more, but we're kind of stifled by those veterans who don't want to push the envelope, kind of like the line, status quo, and there are people out there. I guess is what my point is. That there are some of us who.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something that's kind of interesting. Like you say, well, how do you talk to legislators, et cetera? Well, the question is putting together packets to get them to begin to look at reality. So, for example, what just happened in Britain? And what just happened in Britain just had major, major implications for everybody, probably all of us too. I mean, we lost, even though it came back to about 260 points today, we lost $1 trillion over the weekend. Each and every one of us collectively, if you have your retirement funds, probably lost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. So the interconnectedness of this, the ability to understand these types of relationships, and again, these are the type of things that we're faced with as we begin to explore these particular ideas. But these are the conversations that you need to have. And the other thing is that you cannot, I can say to you, well, this is what you need to do. What it really entails, though, is your ability to understand the dynamics of conversation, to get people to look at things. So if you talk to your legislators and you show them, one, what I handed out today from the World Economic Foundation, because that stuff they talk about is affecting the world economy, the technologies they're looking at there, a lot of interesting stuff. You look at the Wall Street Journal, Baxter, as I think I told you last year, Baxter's picture was in the Wall Street Journal. And they were saying that how Baxter is going to change the whole dimension of low-skilled work because Baxter only costs $25,000. Now think about that. Baxter only costs $25,000, but Baxter you don't have to pay health care, you don't have to do all that, which brings into that whole dimension this thing that the second machine age begins to talk about, is that the automation, the technology that our kids and many of you are going to be facing is radically going to change even white collar jobs. So if you watch that video, it talks about that, and hopefully in a couple minutes I'm going to show you the two of them talking about this. It's something that we need to seriously think about. So with that, let me get back to my file here again. I want this one right here. Okay, so so what I want you to think about as we go forward with this is that I'm going to show you a video. Hopefully I'm going to show you the video about both of them talking about this. But what I want you to do as you watch this video is to think about the mental models that it surfaces in your thinking. So remember when we talked about Sengi and we talked about in 800, those assumptions you carry out in your head. And if you got a pencil or paper close by or something, write some of this stuff down, think about it. And then what I want you to think about is, how does your reaction relate to your own leadership thinking and how to discuss this within your own organization? So that starts getting at a couple of the things you guys raised about how do you begin to do this? Well, and since you're only into taking 645 along this, one of the things that 645 and what Sharma's getting you to do is to begin to understand your blind spots as an individual. And secondly, is to begin to understand what is the source of your leadership. Where does it come from? What do you believe? What are you looking at? And so hopefully whoever is teaching you that course, that you'll get into that. But that's the essence of what Sharma's talking about in Theory U, is trying to understand your source first. Why do you want leadership? What are you doing within that? And then how does that impact your behavior as a leader, your daily actions? And then finally, this week within your reflective teams, I want you to share these ideas. And then how does the Shirley Turkle comments intersect with them because of what she talks about in terms of technology? So let me see if I can get you. Oh, am I on the right one? Hang on one second. I'm going to stop over. I'm jumping around here. Ooh. Okay, now this is interesting. Chris, are you there? Let me see if he's here. Yeah, or Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I should have had a video. It's in that other room that Chris uploaded, and he said it was uploaded, but I don't see it.
Do you want to open that other room in a different tab?
Can I do that? But he was the one that uploaded the video. I didn't. So I think he'd uploaded here, but when I went to,
Is it your video file?
Yeah, it's my
Do
video.
you have it on your desktop?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then take me down from stage, go to select file and upload it.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. It won't let me do it. That's why it's bigger than the 200.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah. So I sent it to him my Dropbox. He uploaded it and it was there in the other room.
Okay. I see we have 15 minutes of class. Let me see what I can do. I'll have to come down from the main stage and see if I can do this for you.
Get you
Okay.
out of here. Okay. So if this does not happen, what I will do is I will upload it onto Blackboard. Also, the other thing I did send out to you guys, just so you know this, that if you are having trouble opening up my files or attachments, what I've discovered was that Blackboard and Drexel's email is not communicating appropriately. And it just started happening. I think when they switched over to the new Blackboard, that was a problem. I did not realize it. So I'm having people send me information related to it. If you want to send me a separate email, a different email until they get this fixed, I can send you my voice announcements, etc. Otherwise, I am posting them in the announcements, and you should be able to download or to listen to them from the announcement page. If that's not working, I will post them at the beginning of the week so you can listen to those. Because I know my 836 class has been having trouble, and I think some of you have been having trouble with the attachments. And that basically has been because of Blackboard, and I didn't even realize that. All right, Jeffrey. Do you want to come up, Jeff? Let me bring you up real quick. Hey, Jeffrey, if you cannot do it tonight, I'll upload it onto my Blackboard, and they can watch it and then be able to interact with it.
I'm going to upload this for you, so just give me a minute.
Okay.
You can take me down.
So we will have a friendly commercial break here while we are solving our technical difficulties. So any thoughts or questions from you guys right now while he is there? Let me see if it is there. Select the file. Nope, it's still not there. Nope. Yes, I see a hand up. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Hi. I have a question about the digital media profile that we have to put together.
Okay.
If I'm using Prezi, do we also have to use the voice thread? Do you want us to narrate also?
No, you would just do a voiceover in Prezi. You just put your voice in Prezi. You don't need to use voice thread.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, voice thread. Yeah, come.
Okay. I haven't done my voice in Prezi before.
Yeah, so you can add voice in Prezi. Okay?
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, another question. Let me bring you up here. Getting used to doing this. Okay, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
I did. Okay, so for our digital profile assignment, if we're not doing the voice thread and we're doing the voiceover somewhere else, where do you want us to submit the assignment?
If you're able to upload it, all you do is upload the link to wherever you're going to have it, and then just give me the link, and then I'll find it that way.
But mine is an actual, like an MP4, so it's an actual video. How would I submit that to you? Would I email it to you?
You should be able to upload that to that.
To the voice thread?
Or not to VoiceThread, but to Blackboard page.
There isn't a space for the assignment yet. There
No,
isn't a space.
it should be. It should be in week 2. If you click on that, the assignment, it should open up for you so you can upload it.
Okay, I don't think it's available on Blackboard yet. A space for us to upload that. That's
Okay. Let me see. Or do I have that in week 3? I'll have to check that. If not, there's 2 ways you can do it. One is you can send it to me in an email, and then when it does open up, don't worry about it.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. We have another one. Okay. Getting used to bringing you guys up on stage. Okay, Summer.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I forgot what my question was here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So do we, I think I remember you saying that we have to narrate it with voice. Is that right? Because I saw the example from, was it PictoChart, which was really kind of cool. I wanted to play around with that. So I wasn't sure if voice was a requirement or not, because that service just kind of is all about the visual.
Yeah, and what I think the person did was they added an Audacity with it to give me updates on what it is.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying that, the reason I'm asking you to do voice in there is it allows you to give me a deeper insight into what you have there.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
why generally, VoiceThread's pretty good to use a lot of times, because it allows you to just add the stuff right into it. Prezi's okay. But if you do something that's separate and you're creating something, and if you could put an Audacity file onto it, that would be good.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good. We'll give it
And
a
if you
shot.
have problems with it, let me know.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, good. All right. So let me see if that file is up there yet. No, I only got stream and I only have HTML. Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the end. My thing is, hang on a second. Let me see if I can find. Okay, here he is. If we don't get a chance to see that video, what I'll do is I will upload that video if it's not up here yet. So Jeffrey, I don't see there. Are you up there yet?
Yeah, hi. I checked it's been uploaded in our event manager, but for some reason we can't access it. So let's proceed with sharing the link afterwards.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll just upload it, guys, to our Blackboard. So I'll put it up there, and if I don't get it up tonight, I'll have it up there by tomorrow morning. So that's it. So otherwise, that's basically what I want you to think about. But what's important is to watch this video. Actually, it's out on YouTube, so I'll send you the YouTube link tonight. That's probably the easier way of doing that. But I'll embed it in. Actually, I'll put it into week 2. Look for it tonight or tomorrow morning. So that you can watch it. Right, it runs about 12 and a half minutes, but it really gives you a very good overview of really what these guys are talking about. And then as you get into that book deeper, I think it will help you to get a better handle on what they're talking about. Okay? So if there are, as usual, if you do have, any questions going forward, always let me know. Email me anytime. You can give me a call. You do have my telephone number or whatever. I will try to make myself available as much as I can. I will be down, as soon as I'm done here, I'm heading back down to Cape May, having a little family vacation, but I'm also working, so don't feel, you can, email me. I check my email for all my classes, even while I'm on vacation. So that's okay. So with that, if there is nothing else for this evening, you guys hopefully got something out of this. If it generates a lot of questions, let me know in your discussion groups. Take a look at those. If you want me to come into those at any given time, let me know also. So otherwise, that's it, and you can depart the room at your leisure. So, sir.
Hi, John. Okay, so I've got this recorded. Let me go ahead and stop the recording for you, okay?
Good.